family in Quebec thought they were finally weeks away from their first electric car. Rebates looked solid, prices had settled, and 2024's headlines were full of record EV sales. Then the new year arrived, and the federal incentive disappeared overnight. The car they had been planning for slipped out of reach, and they walked out of the dealership with the whole plan on hold. They weren't alone. In early 2025, Quebec, Canada's strongest EV market, saw sales drop by 60 to 65%. How does a boom collapse this fast? And what does that say about Canada's push to phase out gas cars? On the surface, Canada looked like it was moving in the right direction. In 2024, electric vehicles reached about 14% of the national market share, and sales climbed past 100,000 all-electric cars. Quebec and British Columbia led the push. Their provincial rebates stacked on top of the federal program, and their charging networks kept growing each year. In those regions, the math made sense for many buyers. The price gap narrowed. Chargers weren't perfect, but they were visible. Policy and day-to-day realities seemed to line up. Cross into Ontario, and the picture shifted. The province ended its rebate in 2018, and EV adoption has stayed in the single digits ever since. Even with new battery and vehicle plants on the way, many buyers still chose gas or hybrids. The cars existed, the support system did not. So when the federal incentive ended for everyone in January 2025, the divide widened even more. The question now isn't just, are EVs the future? It is, who can afford that future and who gets left behind? Underneath the national targets, a small group of models carries the most of the market. The Tesla Model Y leads the pack, with the Model 3 right behind it. Together, they account for a large share of Canada's electric car sales. The Chevrolet Equinox EV drew attention because its price felt within reach for many middle-income buyers. Models like the Ford Mustang Mach-E, Hyundai Ioniq 5, Kia EV6, Volkswagen ID4, Nissan Ariya, and Hyundai Ioniq 6 also shape the market, while higher-end options such as the BMW iX sit in their own niche. But buyers aren't flipping through spec sheets for fun. They have straightforward questions. Will this car handle my daily commute without stress? Can it manage a weekend highway trip? Will it get through a January cold snap without turning range into a guessing game? Those questions hit hardest when winter arrives. Picture a driver who buys an EV in October. The sticker promises 400 kilometers of range, enough for the daily routine and even a winter road trip. Then the first real cold wave arrives. They preheat the cabin, clear the windshield, get on the highway, and watch the range drop faster than expected. The number on the display no longer matches the promise they saw at the dealership. That gap between rated range and real range is where trust starts to slip. Cold weather isn't a footnote in Canada. It is the constant enemy of every battery pack. Cabin heating pulls energy straight from the battery. Charging slows in sub-zero temperatures. Long winter drives require tighter planning. CAA tests on 14 electric vehicles in temperatures between -7 and -15 degrees, showed it a wide spread. Some models, like the Chevrolet Silverado EV and Polestar 2, lost around 14% of their rated range. Others lost between 35 and nearly 40%. Now imagine planning a winter trip with family in the car and watching almost 40% of your expected range disappear. Surveys reflect that worry. About 2/3 of Canadians say winter range loss is a major concern. Around 65% of current EV owners report a lower range in the cold months. Roughly 40% say fast charging slows down in winter. More than half still prefer gas vehicles for long, cold weather drives. Battery chemistry shapes these experiences. LFP packs, common in lower range models, tend to lose more range in the cold than NMC or NCA packs. Heat pumps and battery preconditioning help, but not every model includes them, and many drivers don't use those features. Winter doesn't stop people from driving electric. Thousands already do, but winter creates doubt, and doubt spreads faster than any sales chart. The second pillar of this story is charging access. By early 2025, Canada had more than 33,000 public charging ports across nearly 13,000 stations. Most are slower Level 2 chargers. A little over 6,000 are DC fast chargers, built for long trips and highway corridors. The network grew by more than 24% in a single year. Real progress. But progress and scale are two different things. Federal estimates say Canada will need to close 679,000 public charging ports by 2040. To get there, the country would have to install more than 40,000 new ports every year. In 2024, it added around 6,700, less than the year before and far below what the target demands. The cost is massive. Building a network of that size is projected to exceed $18 billion. Only about $1 billion has been committed so far, leaving the rest to governments, private investors, utilities, and local partners. And even the chargers that exist aren't spread evenly. Cities and major corridors continue to grow their networks, while many rural highways still have long stretches with no fast charging at all. For drivers in those regions, the question isn't whether an EV works on paper. It's whether a charger will actually be there when the battery runs low. Then there is price, the force that cuts through every other issue. Electric vehicles often cost more upfront than similar gas models. Before 2025, the federal rebate cut up to $5,000 from that price. Quebec and British Columbia added their own help on top. In those provinces, buyers could carve a real amount off the sticker. The day the federal incentive ended, effective prices jumped by the same amount. Nothing about the cars changed. The math did. For many households, that erased the advantage they saw from lower fuel and maintenance costs. In Canada, several electric models still sit $10,000 to $15,000 above comparable gas vehicles. Even if lifetime costs come out better, most buyers decide based on the lump sum they face at the dealer. Canada also has fewer truly low-priced EV options than some regions. In parts of Europe, drivers can choose from many models under $45,000. In Canada, that list is short. Chinese brands that could undercut prices face high tariffs and barriers. When prices stay high and incentives vanish, many shoppers do the simplest thing. They wait and hope for a better deal later. The slowdown in early 2025 is that hesitation turned into hard numbers. Public mood reflects all of this. Recent surveys show that about 72% of Canadians are unlikely to consider an EV in the near future, a number that has grown over the past 2 years. The reasons stay the same: upfront price, winter range loss, fear of dead chargers, and the need for dependable long-distance travel. Plug-in hybrids have filled that gap. They let drivers use electricity for short trips while keeping gasoline as a safety net for long winter drives. For many, that feels more practical than going fully electric right away. Home charging is another dividing line. Drivers who can install a charger in their garage or driveway often report smooth, stress-free daily use. They plug in at night and start each morning with a full battery. Drivers without home charging live a different reality. Those relying on apartment lots, street parking, or public stations juggle time limits, busy chargers, outages, and unpredictable pricing. Installation costs can swing widely depending on building rules, utilities, and local codes. Once again, Canada splits into two distinct experiences: Quebec and British Columbia with stronger rebates, clearer policy, and denser charging networks have more drivers who feel ready to switch. Ontario moves at a slower pace. Across the prairies, the north, and many rural communities, people worry most about long distances, harsh winters, and the risk of running low far from the next town. All of this sits under ambitious national goals. Canada wants 60% of new light-duty vehicles sold by 2030 to be zero-emission, and 100% by 2035. Hitting those marks means steady growth in EV sales, a much larger and more reliable charging network, and more affordable models, including pickups and SUVs that match what Canadians already buy. The auto industry is investing in that assumption. Battery plants are rising in Ontario and Quebec. Mining for lithium, nickel, and cobalt is expanding to feed those factories. Manufacturers are rolling out new electric trucks and larger vehicles aimed at the Canadian market. The next decade will show whether those plans line up with real lives. If charging spreads fast, if prices come down, and if winter performance becomes more predictable, Canada can move much closer to its targets. If those pieces lag, EV adoption will slow, and the gap between policy and pavement will grow. Canada has the resources, the industry, and the talent to build an electric future. The hard part is making that future feel real and workable for a family staring at a price tag, a weather forecast, and a map with long empty stretches between chargers. In the end, the story will not be written by targets or press releases. It will be written by millions of small choices at dealerships and kitchen tables, in a country where winter, distance, and price still share the driver's seat.